From service to strength, from questions to choice, guidance you trust, HerVetsVoice.
Yes, I am here. I am fine. Hello, YouTube. How are you? Welcome to HerVetsVoice, where we discuss all things VA to include claims, reports, Senate committee hearings, and we just have a great time over here. How are you doing? Good evening. Happy Friday. It is time for our Friday night cookout. And yes, I missed our Wednesday cookout, but I needed the break. So, how are you guys doing? I hope all is well. And they are some things that we are going to have to discuss tonight. So, tonight we are discussing a newly released report from the Department of Veterans Affairs, OIG. Okay. And we are going to pull up the report, which is a review of the assignment of non-compensable musculoskeletal joint disabilities. Now, this report was released on August 6, 2026. And let me tell you, the findings should get the attention of every single veteran who has a service connected knee, ankle, hip, shoulder, elbow, wrist, or any other joint condition rated at 0%. But before I get into it, make sure that you are here at the cookout with everything that you need because, of course, I have the receipts, I have the report. We are going to go over it. We're going to talk a little bit about what you should do, what you shouldn't do. But before I definitely get into it, let's see who's here. And I hope you guys already have hit the like button because I'm serving tonight and I'm not playing. So if you hit the like button, make sure you hit the like button. But anyway, let's go. Hey, 66 is good. Good evening. Please like and subscribe. Hey to my namesake. Oh, I like the video. Oh, okay, Brina, you coming in swinging tonight. Okay. The Mad Researcher, how are you? It is always good to see you. Mike is smooth. Good evening from Columbia, South Carolina. Actually, I'm going to be in your neck of the woods tomorrow. The Asian festival is there tomorrow. So I'm going to be in your neck of the woods. Hey, Bluebird, how are you? Happy Friday. Of course, my big brother. I want to say you did an amazing job last night. I was actually laying in bed listening. I couldn't comment because I was helping um, my daughter write her paper, but you did an absolutely amazing job last night. Job well done. And I'm proud of you for going live. You got it. You got it. You got it. You got it. Like and subscribe. Hey, Sherry, it's good to see you. Peace and blessings to everyone. J. Jr., how are you? What's up? AF Veteran, how are you? Amelia, you are here. Thank you guys for joining. If you don't hit the left button, T Love deletes your claim files. Thank you. I'm definitely proud of you because I know that was something that you were a little bit nervous about, and I see that you got it under control. And you had two guests, so I know you can do it. I'm very proud of you. But anyway, guys, so tonight we are going to get into the OIG report, and I read this 27-page report. Okay, I read this 27-page report. So I have some notes, I have some details, and I want you guys to pay close attention because I know a lot of people are rated 0% for a lot of joints. Okay. And the way how the VA did this, they not right. It's not even Sunday, but it's Friday night, and we can cut up tonight because it's just Friday, it's the weekend. But anyway, so according to the VA, according to the Office of Inspector General, claims were processed incorrectly. They were evaluated non compensatable joint disabilities to include painful motion, and I think approximately 50% of the time during the period that they reviewed. Now, I'm going to pull up the OIG report, but I want to tell you guys something before I get a little bit further into this. Now, there are approximately 15.9 million service connected musculoskeletal disabilities as of the fiscal year of 2024. That's what the data in this report. Approximately 3.3 million of those disabilities were rated at 0%. Now, 15.9 million service connected, but 3.3 million are rated at 0%, right? So I want you to know that the OIG did not review all of the 3.3 million ratings. It projections apply to a defined population of decisions between the periods of April 1st, 2024 and March 31st of 2025. So the OIG reviewed 20 more decisions in between October and November of 2025, but they did not give us data as to whether the similar problem that we're going to talk about was included in the main statistical projections, right? So let me give you guys an example because I want you guys to really understand. And I'm going to look at the comments periodically, but I want to look at this report to make sure that I'm telling you guys the right information. I'm going to share it. So the OIG examined like a statistical sample of 100 in scope decisions. Then they identified another 16 sample decisions as the outside project scope. From what I'm getting, this is my example. They review an additional 20 decisions from late 2025. They interviewed managers and claim processors at 3 VA regional offices, and they interviewed personnel at the VA central office. Now, when they interviewed the 51 claim processing employees, 38 rating VSRs and 13 quality review specialists helped them reach this data. Now, I want you to know that it's important because 50% of the findings is a statistical projection and not a result of like individual reviewing all of the 64,000 decisions. Now, the OIG right now, it estimates that the VBA incorrectly processed approximately 31,900 out of the 64,000 decisions, right? So approximately 50% of the 64,000 is processed wrong. So right now, the OIG is saying that veterans are owed a lot of money. A lot of money. They're owed a lot of money. So I got a couple of notes here that I'm going to review. And before we get into it, I want to give you guys just a summary of what's happening. Now, when we look at the period of time during the period that it was reviewed, those mistakes resulted in an estimated monetary impact of at least $45 million in underpayment to veterans. Now, you're already trying to cut tinnitus and you're already trying to cut sleep apnea. And now, $45 million, okay? This impacted $45 million. This was not $45 million in overpayment. This was approximately $45 million that veterans may have been underpaid because their service-connected joint conditions were not evaluated correctly. Y'all better tell a friend to come over here. If they got 0 on their elbow, their knee, their pinky toe, their ankle, their shoulder, any musculoskeletal joint, ain't happening. The VA ain't giving it. So before we get started, I need to tell you guys that I am not an attorney. I'm not a VSO. I'm not accredited. I'm not all of that. This is for educational and informational purposes only. Okay? I want to say that. Now, every veteran claim is different. And before filing a claim or an appeal or request for review, you need to make sure that you are speaking with somebody about your circumstances. Now, the purpose of the report, this report was conducted to determine whether the VBA claims processors were correctly assigning a 0% evaluations for service connected musculoskeletal joints. Now, I know you guys know that the musculoskeletal disabilities are among the most common service connected affecting veterans. Your joints hurt all the time. Your ankles, your knees, your hips, like I said, your shoulders, your elbow, your wrist, your spine, and all the different joints in your body, they hurt. And so a veteran can be granted service connection for a condition, but you know that they still can receive a 0% evaluation, which means that it is service connected, but it's not compensatable. So a 0% rating means that the VA has recognized that you have that condition, it's connected to the veteran service, but the VA has determined that the condition does not currently meet the requirements for monthly compensation by itself. Now, service connection has definitely been established, but the disability has been evaluated as non compensatable. Now, before we pull up the report, the question raised by this report is whether some of those veterans should have received at least a minimum compensatable rating because they experienced painful motion. That's the thing here. So let's see what the OIG found. Okay, let me share my screen here. Um, this is it. Yes, this is it. So let's go to this part first. This part right here. Let's share my screen, and I want you guys to be able to see what I'm seeing. And let's go here. So let's start with the summary of what's happened, and I'll check in on the comments as time permits, but y'all better hit the daggone like button, okay? And I'm gonna check in on the comments in a little bit. Toya, it's good to see you. Bev, it is good to see you as well. Annette, good to see you as well. Um, so the OIG conducted this review to determine whether the VBA claims processors correctly assign non-compensatable evaluations for service-connected musculoskeletal joint disabilities, the most common service-connected disabilities among veterans. When the service connected is warranted, a claims processor evaluates the veteran's claims and assigns a disability percentage. If the evaluation determines a disability is compensatable, it may result in a monthly payment to the veteran. If there's no evidence of the limited or painful range of motion, a non-compensatable evaluation is assigned and the veteran does not receive payments for the disability. Now, the OIG found that claims processors incorrectly evaluated non compensatable joint disabilities based on painful motion about 50% of the time between April 1st, 2024 through March 31st, 2025. Now, furthermore, the OIG team confirmed that as of November 2025, VBA continued to experience similar errors for non compensatable joint disabilities. These errors result in an estimated monetary impact of at least $45 million in underpayment to the veterans. That said, VBA reported in March 2026 that all errors identified by the VA OIG has been corrected as of February of 2026. Y'all believe that? Anyway, the errors occurred because many claim processors misunderstood how to properly apply key regulatory provisions governing painful motion under 38 CFR 4.59. Staff reported confusion about how to weigh subjective reports of pain versus objective medical findings and how to determine when pain alone warrants a compensatable rating. Regulations were inconsistently interpreted not only among claims processors in regional offices, but also among staff from several offices in the VBA compensation service. The OIG also found that unclear terminology in the VBA's procedure and rating tool contributes to the problem. Now, the OIG issued 4 recommendations to the Undersecretary for Benefits aimed at clarifying regulatory guidance and ensuring consistent application of compensable evaluations for joint disability. I don't even want to go to these comments because I know y'all finna be over here cutting up. So let me see. Let me see what y'all got. If you don't hit the like button, T likes T. The link man. Yeah, that's Craig. Craig loved the links. I brought a fireball to the cookout. Well, thank you. Hey, Annette. Good to see you. Y'all better hit the like button. If you in the bushes, you can still hit the like button and you don't have to watch from the bushes. You can show up. It's okay. I love everybody. Even the ones that don't like me. I love you too. Um, let's see. Wonder if the Waco viral was one of these who got it wrong. I don't think I have ever rated a joint at 0%. It has to be at least, well, thank you, AF veteran. Thank you. Hello. Hello. Y'all better hit the like button. Matt's researcher. Okay, let's see. Let's see here. My little sister is all in my brain. I literally just read this report the other day and was like, I want to do a video on that, but I don't have time. No, I don't have to. You can still do a video. What up, G Watt? How are you? Grace, it's good to see you. I wonder if it was deliberate or accidental. No one knows. Well, according to the report, it says that if you look right here where it says that the terminology in the VBA's procedures and rating tools contribute to the problem. So I would say that some of the raters did not have a clear understanding behind how it should be rated, right? It always goes back to the foundation, which is education, right? If you're not you are educated, but you have to grasp the concept behind how am I going to rate this? How does painful motion be included? And I know if you guys have been on Raiders live, he have shown you guys the dashboard of how painful motion is included by clicking that button to make sure. And once you click that button, then the rating is increased, right? So anyway, let's go. Um, that smile will be a frown from 12 to 26 Army Beat neighbor. Hey Grace, how are you? Oh, thank you for the jewels. Nathan, thank you very much. So let's get back in. Let me pull up the other report so that you guys can see what I'm looking at right here. Because you know I always come with the receipts. So let me add this to the stage so you guys can see. And I hope you guys can see. I told you guys that it is 27 pages. And so I went through all the pages and picked out the most pertinent information. And I might even miss some of the things that's in here because this is a lot, right? This is definitely a lot. And it's a lot of information. Okay. Hey, Skins, how are you? Good to see you guys. And if you're just joining, we are going over the OIG report from the VA in reference to musculoskeletal and what errors they found and how um, they missed the mark when it comes to compensating veterans. Okay, so let's go back here. All right, so let's go and you guys can see, let's get the start of what is happening. And we're gonna just glance through this a little bit. I'm going to be scanning, but I also put the report already in the description so you guys can go ahead and pull the report that you want, okay? So it's already in the description. As I said, the OIG team reviewed a sample of claims dated from April 2024 through March 2025, and they found that the rating decision assigned a confirmed and non-compensable evaluation for joint disability. So the OIG found that 64,000, and out of the 64,000, half of them, right, were incorrectly evaluated for incompensable joint disabilities based on painful motion. And that's how far we have gotten so far. Now, the OIG then reviewed additional statistical sample of decisions that were completed from October 1st to November 14th, 2025. And guess what? They're still doing the same thing, right? The VBA continues to experience similar errors for non-compensable joint disabilities. Now, the OIG made 4 recommendations to the Undersecretary for the Benefits to mitigate the confusion regarding compensable evaluations. And in January of 2026, now the VBA Compensation Service and Field Officer Operations Leader said that they had been taking action regarding, right here, they've been taking action, right? They've been taking action. But anyway, we're going to keep going. So what they found is that 50% of the decisions completed for the compensable joint disabilities were incorrect because the claims processors were confused on how to apply the 38 CFR 4.59 and 4.71A when service connection is warranted. Now, a claims processor evaluates the veteran's claims and assigns the percentage. So the OIG then went to interview claims processors at the regional office and observed confusion in several areas that contributed to the incorrect decision. Right? They went there and they interviewed them and they observed the confusion. So what happened was they probably asked questions, they look at how some evaluated others, and then guess what? Everybody is not on the same page. Now, I want to say this in the defense of raters because I love my 2 girls down. Every rater is different. An AF veteran is here and they're a rater, and every rater is different. Now, some are experienced, some are inexperienced, and that's the problem, right? So you have to, and you heard Natural say this, when you become a rater, it takes years for you to become experienced. And so sometimes when you're trying to read the guidelines, you might interpret it different than what somebody else is. And then you might assign something else different than what another rater would assign. So the OIG found that there were confusion in several areas that contributed to the incorrect decision. Now I'm going to get into this a little bit. First, the team noticed that claims processors did not always understand the difference between the subjective and the objective evidence. Now, claims processors were not clear whether the subjective evidence carried the same weight as the objective or whether pain by itself was sufficient to warrant a compensable evaluation. Now, then the team confirmed there were various interpretations of the 38 CFR 4.59 among the staff of several offices in the compensation service, to include the policy, the procedures, the training, and the QA. So that's 4 different areas that the staff differ. There were various different interpretations. Now, we want to say that everybody's not going to be the same. What you say? Wait, go back to those in the paragraph. What was those 38 CFRs? It's right here. 4.59. 4.59, and hold on, I have to go to a different screen if you want me to scroll back. Do you want me to scroll back? 4.59, and it was 4.71A. That's what it was. Okay. All right. So thank you, Craig. And y'all, I can't look at the comments because I want this to flow so that anybody that's come watching is able to read it. So what happened was the staff members and AF veteran, I'll definitely look at your comments to make sure that they're getting, the information that they need. So they were saying that several staff members had a problem interpreting the policy, the procedures, the training, and the QA. And furthermore, the team noted that the terminology in the adjudication procedures manual and the selection claim processors can make in the required evaluation builder tool contributed to the confusion. Now, you remember I said earlier, Rader would did a I think he was on live. I can't remember if it was a video or live, but he showed the evaluation builder and how painful motion, how it is evaluated and included in the rating. Okay. And I'm not sure what the video was, but I'll probably try to go back and find it. It might have been a live. So moving forward, the VBA should provide a consistent interpretation of the third VA C.F.R. 4.59 regarding pain alone and provide guidance to claims processors to review all evidence so underpayments to veterans can be mitigated. Now, the first question I have for you guys is, do you think that they receive enough training to fix this, or do you think this is still happening? That's my first question. Do you think this is still happening? Because obviously it's going to have to take some time for them to really get into the, the motion of it to make sure that this is not happening anymore. Now, I want to get into a little bit of what the regulation addresses. Now, the regulation addresses painful motion and recognizes that the actual painful, unstable, and malign joint should be included in the evaluation, in the rating, right? So the report that the OIG did, they identified those key areas were the main parts where the raters were not getting it. There was confusion between pain and painful motion. And then there was confusion about how claims processors should weigh a veteran's subjective reports of pain against medical findings, right? So what they were saying here is that the raters had a problem, right, weighing if they should weigh a veteran's reports, meaning like your life statement and what kind of pain you were experiencing compared to what you were getting at your C&P examination or what they were reporting. Now, the next thing was there was confusion about whether the pain alone without documentation of painful motion is enough for you to be compensated for that musculoskeletal disability. That was number 3. And the fourth one was they were the terminology that is used in the VBA's procedures and the rating tool was not clear or consistent. And this is extremely important because this is what the processors rely on when it comes to the VA regulation, the M21-1, right? They rely on that. The electronic rating tool. These are the things that are the part of the decision making when it comes to that. Now, I want to say this. If those are confusing, whether a veteran can receive if those are confusing whether a veteran can receive different outcomes when their circumstances are similar, pain versus painful, it's going to be a lot of conflict there, right? Now, let me slow this down a little bit. One of the most important parts that I read in this report was the pain and the painful motion and how they are related, but they're not really treated as identical concepts under the VA rating rule. Now, pain and painful motion for the VA is separated, but according to the OIG, they felt like it should come together. Let me scroll down a little bit because I don't want to overwhelm you guys with a lot. And please tell me if I am going a little bit too much, too far, yeah. Let me see the comments here before I go a little further here. All right. If there is any mention of pain on the DBQ, even if it's not in the box checked off by the examiner, we as a RVSR need to include painful motion. I receive a quality error in mentorship for missing this. Oh, wow. You guys, this is a great gem right here. This is a great gem right here. And I hope you guys are taking it in. HerVetsVoice, your receipts are like those you get from CVS. You know that go on at yup and do. I love a good receipt. And if you got a little coupon at the end of that receipt, I'll take that too. So that way I could come back again. So AF veteran, I have 40% for my left shoulder instability after surgery, dropped to 30% for residuals. Is that right? I'm probably going to pay natural and say she's going to join to answer you guys some questions. But anyway, HV, so with the OIG, doesn't that go back to legacy? Great question, Grace. I don't know. That is a good question, though. I have to see. I've seen previous info that no matter what you click in that box in VBMS, it only yields a 10% rating for those musculoskeletal conditions. I'm wondering if this is the case. That's good too. I'm Craig. That is. Hold on. Let's see, Grace. Oh, we already got that. Sounds like it was a breakdown in communication between offices. Oh, yeah, very much so. When this news broke, I bet the OIG was looking at the Philly office and saying to themselves, they the crosswalk streetlights claims. At least we know the Philly office. Yes. I can only imagine when this news broke that the OIG said the Philly office ain't about, oh, you know it. You know. Oh, yeah. I believe it's still happening because I just got an email today about a video I did on HLRs, and this is what the veterans that happened to them. So I think it's happening. Hey, White Cobra, have an amazing weekend. The VA's fault for leaving things to go to interpretation all the time. Guess it's a waste of time for me to file about the nerve pain in my left foot that the Buffalo VA hospital caused. No, I don't think you should. Don't. Oh, yeah, there are tons of openings for jobs right now. Oh, because guys, you know what happens at the end of the year, right? The seasoned employees leave, new employees come in, they need to be trained, and this is what's going to happen. Hey, Benny, how are you? The problem is that pain is subjective and medical cannot measure it objectively. Correct. Definitely. All right, I'm browsing through the comments because I want to keep going. How is it that the OIG is saying painful motion and pain should be construed the same? That is actually good news. How is it, right? How is it? Anyway, all right, let's keep going. So these are the contents behind what they found, and we're going to go to the findings so that we can talk a little bit about what they are talking about. So the findings is really the most important thing. Is this yeah, okay, the findings. So the non-compensable joint disability based on painful motion were not always evaluated correctively. So the OIG had found that claims processors, like I said before, did not always comply with the 38 C.F.R. in 4.59 and 4.71a, and they incorrectly evaluated approximately 33 to 34,000 claims, right? And then when they tested it again in October through November 14th, they were still doing the same thing. Now, according to the VA, they have provided some guidance and training, and they corrected this in February 2026. But here we are in August of 2026, and veterans are still saying that even though they have pain, or they mention they have pain, they still have that big fat 0% service connected, right? So that's where we at. So the OIG determined that the claims involved in evaluations of the joints are not being processed correctly because claim processors are not consistently considering the entirety of the evidence. Now, the team found that several factors contributed to this inconsistent use of evidence in related to the 38 CFR 4.59 and 4.718. Now, these factors include claim processors struggling to understand what constitutes subjective evidence and being unsure whether subjective evidence carry the same weight of objective evidence. And we read that before. Now, until the VBA can provide a consistent interpretation of the CFR for 38 CFR 4.59 in light of Petty versus McDonald, and provide related guidance to claim processors, along with emphasizing the requirements to review all evidence, the VA risks continuing to underpay veterans with compensable joint disabilities. That's what I want you guys to understand. This has not changed. This is still happening. I don't care how much they talk about February 2026. There is no way, no way, no way, no way. Because guess what? What they say, it takes 21 days to build a habit. Now, seasoned people who's been doing it that way all along, there's no way you're going to be able to change their mind in a matter of a month or 30 days. No, because they've been doing it that way all along. But anyway, let's go. So let's see what the VA OIG did. The team reviewed a statistical sample of 100 decisions completed between April 2024 through March 31st, 2025, and an additional sample of 20 questions from October through November, in which a claims processor assigned or confirmed a non-compensable evaluation for a musculoskeletal disability. The team reviewed these decisions to determine whether the compensable evaluation was correct. The team also reviewed applicable laws, regulations, policies, procedures, and guidelines, interviewed claims processors and managers in 3 VA regional offices, and interviewed leaders and staff of the VA central office. Additionally, the team briefed VBA's compensation office and the Office of Field Operations leader in the OIG's preliminary findings and recommendations in January of 2026, and we'll look at the appendix as we go down. Now, this talks about the processing of the claims, and they estimated, like I told you guys, 32,000 out of the 64,000 decisions. So they were processed incorrectly. Then the team further estimated that 12,000 out of the 32,000 errors had a monetary impact. I'm just going to pause right there. So 12,000 veterans missing out on money because of what? Because of what? The lack of education on their part. That's the problem right now. That's definitely the problem right now. So everything that's happening, right? Everything that's happening, veterans are missing out on money. They're missing out on coins. But you know, they swear up and down veterans have a whole lot of money. Whole lot of money. They have a whole lot of money. Anyway, let's keep going. So the remaining estimated 20,000 errors did not result in a change to the veteran's overall disability percentage and payment at the time of a review. Now, then the OIG estimated that 19,000 of the 32,000 incorrected decisions contain both objective and subjective evidence of painful motion. So 19,000 of these claims. These veterans said they had painful motion, but however, none of the estimated 32,000 decisions were assigned a compensatable evaluation. And they gave an example. For example, in one instance, a veteran filed a claim for an increased evaluation for their service-connected left knee condition. During a knee examination in the medical health section, the examiner documented the veteran's reported weight-bearing pain when walking, which is subjective evidence. While testing, the examiner also noted objective evidence of pain with repeated use over time. The rating decision assigned a non-compensable evaluation, but did not address the painful motion, although the evidence clearly shows it was present. Now, after the OIG team notified the VBA of the error, the VBA issued a corrected decision on August 14th of 2025, and the veteran received retroactive payment of $29,130. Y'all, did you see that? So, subjective evidence, right, and objective evidence is the hinder when it comes to making sure that your painful motion is addressed when in your C&P examination and on your rating decision form. I keep telling y'all over and over and over and over. Read your decision letters, do a FOIA request, get your DBQs, stop talking too much, all of this stuff. And guess what? Every single month, if you have not realized the pattern of the VA here for the last 6 months that I've been doing these hearings, I've been giving you guys information. It's total highway robbery from veterans. If you are living under a rock right now, you better crawl out, drink you some water, get you something to eat, and pay attention. Now, according to the VBA's manual, subjective evidence, right, of painful motion, that is statements of evidence. So remember this, subjective evidence is statements or evidence coming, for example, from the veteran or another person. It may be sufficient to warrant assigning the minimum compensating evaluation of a joint disability. Therefore, because there's evidence of painful motion in the estimated 32,000 incorrect decision, a compensatable evaluation should have been assigned. So because you have that painful, remember, AF veteran just said, painful motion 10%. Never assigned a 0% for painful motion ever. If you are under a rock, you better come out and drink water. Okay? Revive yourself and read. Because veterans don't like to read Nathaniel. Anyway, let's keep going. As part of their performative standards, claim processors are expected to consistently exercise sound, equitable judgment when applying the laws, regulations, policies, and procedures to ensure accurate decisions are issued for all disability claims. Claims processors are also responsible for reviewing, analyzing, and weighing all evidence when deciding a claim and when assigning a compensatable evaluation to ensure the rating decision accurately reflects the disability. Now, the OIG team determined that claim processors were not processing joint disability claims correctly because they were not consistently using all evidence when assigning evaluations for joint disabilities. It appeared that some evidence may have been overlooked. the team noted that all claims processors responsible for rating decisions had on average 4 years of experience in the position. The team found several factors that contributed to the inconsistent use of evidence as detailed below. And we're going to get into what evidence they found that were inconsistent with the decision that they made. And thank you for this. For me, it's just preventing a quality area. I was just doing what is right for the veteran. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, we're going to keep going. I'll read y'all comments after. I invited Natural to the panel where she can answer your questions. She'll join as soon as she can. So, through interviews and 51 claim processors, which are 38 rating service representatives and 13 rating quality review specialists at 3 regional offices, the OIG team observed confusion among claim processors in several areas regarding the application of the 38 C.F.R. 4.59. These include understanding the difference, like we talked about, between the subjective and the objective evidence, whether the subjective evidence carried the same weight as objective evidence, and whether the pain alone was sufficient to warrant a compensatable evaluation, or if they had to be evidence of painful motion. Now, we talk about, despite VBA's guidance after the Petty versus McDonald case, saying subjective lay evidence was sufficient for compensatable evaluation, confusion among claim processors persists. During interviews, the team asked claim processors to provide an example of subjective evidence of pain, and several claim processors struggled to do so accurately. Instead of providing examples of subjective evidence, they cited examples of objective evidence. Additionally, some claim processors tended to weigh objective evidence more than subjective evidence, which is not necessary because subjective evidence is sufficient to warrant a compensatable evaluation for musculoskeletal joint disabilities. For example, one claim processor stated that if evidence of painful motion was only in the medical history and not in the objective section of the examination, they would assign a non-compensatable evaluation. Another processor said they would send the examination back to the examiner for clarification based on inconsistency. In both instances, the subjective evidence should have been enough to grant a compensatable evaluation. There was also confusion as to whether the pain alone was sufficient to grant the compensatable evaluation or whether pain with motion was required. Some claim processors interviewed said pain alone was sufficient to warrant the compensatable evaluation, while others either believed pain had to be associated with motion or were unsure whether pain had to be associated with motion to warrant a compensatable evaluation. Do you guys see the disconnect there? There's definitely a disconnect there, right? So they interviewed several raters and they weren't able to tell the difference between subjective and objective. And then they gave an example of how they would apply it, and some evaluated it for the 10%, and others said sent it back to the examiner, and some just rated it non-compensatable. Right? This is not good, guys. But we always come here to tell you guys what, and I'm going to give you guys some insight on what to do, as to what to do at the end, so you'll know what you can do to go back and get your get your compensatable rating, right? We'll keep going for a little bit more. It's a couple more things I want to point out before we Natural is going to join here shortly. So when the OIG interviewed the staff from several offices to include the offices of procedure, training, QA. The team noted that different offices had different interpretations. And remember, I told you guys that before, right? When it comes to, hey, Natural, how are you? When it comes to raters rating things, everybody rates things different, right? Now Natural is a more experienced rater than somebody who just started 4 years ago, so how she would rate something would could be different from somebody who started 2 years ago or somebody who started 4 years ago. Now let's look at the example that the OIG gave here when it comes to rating the musculoskeletal. For example, the chief of procedures manual staff said that there must be an element of motion associated with the pain. Conversely, the assistant director of training thought pain alone was sufficient, but also expressed some uncertainty with that interpretation. Now, these are the people in charge. These are the top, right? This is the chief of the procedures manual. This is the person who is looking at the manual and making sure that the procedures and everything is have all their ducks in a row. And they don't even know, right? The assistant director of training who creates the information to train the raters didn't even know, had some uncertainty. So while he reported not processing cases in several years, he acknowledged being familiar with the Petiti versus McDonald's. When asked by the OIG team if motion is required to assign a compensatable evaluation under section 4.59, the acting assistant director for quality said no, but also felt motion and pain should go together. These responses illustrate the various interpretations of the 38 CFR 4.59. Now, the assistant director of the VSRD, who is responsible for researching, drafting, and publishing and processing the regulatory amendments to the rating schedule in the Part 4 of the C.F.R., explained to the team that, in his opinion, the confusion stems from many court cases surrounding the regulation, right? He's saying that because of all these court cases, the regulations change all the time, so I can't keep up with this. This is just too much. Now, he noted that the compensation service needs to arrive at a singular definition that is consistent and approved by the OIG's office. However, as of January of 2026, a representative from the compensated service reported that this has not happened yet. So how do you give them training? But never mind. The OIG team concurred that the assistant director assessment, the compensation service is responsible for coordinating legislative and regulatory changes to the VBA program that are used for claims processing. This includes issuing procedural guidance through the updates to the VBA's adjudication procedures manual, which is the M21-1. However, without a consistent interpretation of the 38 CFR 4.59, the compensation service cannot ensure the law has been applied consistently nationwide and that veterans are receiving the benefit in which they are entitled to. Now, this is what they found when it came to the M21-1. The team found that terms used in the manual in reference to evaluating painful joints can lead to confusion. For example, regarding whether pain alone is enough to assign a compensatable evaluation, the section advising claim processors how to establish the minimum compensatable evaluation under the 38 CFR 4.59 began by noting that a painful joint with no mention of motion can be the basis for a compensatable evaluation. However, a few paragraphs later in the manual, the guidance begins using the painful motion. As a result, the manual is unclear as to whether the presence of a painful joint is enough or whether must be evidence of pain during the movement. And look at this in figure 1. Y'all taking me through that tonight. baby, it's always gonna be Dougie and his entourage. So anyway, an actual painful joint can be a basis of assignment of a compensatable evaluation, even though the specific criteria for a compensatable evaluation listed in the diagnostic code for the joints are not met. Now, Natural, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, okay. So I know that you joined a little bit late, and I don't know if you heard about this already, but this is an investigation done by the OIG, where that the VA rated approximately 32,000 veterans incorrectly because they were not able to decipher between the subjective or objective, and they assigned a 0% service connected disability with pain and with painful motion. So before I go any further, I wanted you to give us some insight right here on this 38 CFR 4.9 as to describing whether painful motion and pain of a joint and how it is deciphered.
So a veteran has the ability to tell you if something hurts. I see this a lot where a veteran will have a diagnosis of, like, say, knee strain. And when they go to the examination, they do the flexion and the extension, but they don't note pain for motion on when the veteran is doing the flexion and extension. So some RVSRs will get that, and then they'll just rate it with the extension and the flexion, and they won't, even if the veteran says, no, I have flare ups, I have pain when I'm climbing up the steps and stuff like that. Um, don't put it right there. Um, so um But what I do is, so some raters will just give like a 0% if the flexion and extension is not where it impairs the veteran's mobility, right? And so, me, if the veteran says, hey, I have painful motion, I can't walk up steps, I can't bend, and any prolonged standing, if the veteran says he has pain, I give the 10%. But not all RVSRs do that, because if the examiner does not check painful motion on that DBQ, some of them say it's subject, but sometimes the examiners will say that the pain is subjective, right?
Mhm.
But me, as a person thinking logically, I'm like, a person can know when they're in pain. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So
Yeah.
I err on the side of the vet. I go in favor of the vet. If that vet says they have pain, and if I don't select painful motion, they're going to get a 0%. I don't do that. I give them the 10%. But it is up to that rater and what the evidence that they feel is applying to that. So I seen that on like a lot of the older ratings.
Mhm.
Maybe not so much the new ones, but a lot of the older ones, like back, you know, in the day, that they would give a veteran 0% for a knee strain. But I don't hardly see them now. But I'm not saying that they're not, because obviously we have this case here.
Mhm.
Um, but it is subjective. But if you have to look at the evidence in its entirety. So if they're going to physical therapy, and they submit documentation showing that they're in PT, they're doing pool therapy, and it's noted, in their records that they have degenerative arthritis, or some type of bursitis or something like that, I'm going to give them the 10%. But again, depending on the overall evidence and the attitude of that rater is what gives the, how stuff like this happens that you're talking about now,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. So that's what we were talking about earlier, that when the OIG went to speak with raters, they were not able to tell the difference between the subjective and and a lot of raters did not even know if the veteran had pain, they would automatically get the 10%. That's
10%. Yeah.
yes. So
Hmm.
what we are talking about here is that the M21 being confusing. So it says here the regulatory language of the 38 CFR, the 38 CFR being confusion. Now it says that the 38 CFR 4.59 provides that pain of a joint due to a joint or a periarticular structure surrounding the joint pathology is an indicative of a disability, and an actual painful joint justifies the assignment of a minimum compensable evaluation for the joint under the applicable DC. Now, guidance for assessment of the disability to determine whether the painful motion exists is also included in the 38 CFR 4.59, particularly this regulation. It describes ways in which painful motions can be discerned, such as facial expression, wincing on pressure of manipulation, muscle spasms, or crepitation in tendons, ligaments, or joint structures. Now, the reason I'm reading this is, do we feel like in the DBQ there should be a block to decide to have, hey, well, or do you depend on the CMP examiner to write in the narrative that the veteran had painful motion and it was discerned by a facial expression or a muscle spasm or reflexes or whatever the case may be? Because based on the investigation from the OIG, even though the veteran had said that they had painful motion, and it was put into the DBQ completed by the examiner, the rater still gave them a 0% non-compensatable
Right.
possibility. Yeah.
Then and that's why it goes back to the subjective versus the objective, because subjective is basically like a personal experience, like a personal feeling, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then the objective comes into play when you, like you just said, the measurable pain, like, a person wincing, a person like, just making a sound, or you can physically see when they're walking, they're in pain.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, like I said, you can't just, it ain't just the DBQ that you have to take into consideration. It's the overall objective evidence, right?
Okay.
Like I said, if a veteran submits documentation that they've been going to PT for 2 years, and you've seen a decline in their flexion and their extension, where it's developed into post traumatic arthritis or bursitis or gout or something like that, you have to take that into consideration, because when that veteran has flare ups, you're going to be in pain. So to me, even if the veteran, because the veteran is capable of telling us, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
I have pain all the time,"
Yeah.
they're not capable of diagnosing themselves unless they have some type of medical, like a physician or MD or something like that.
Yeah.
Then yes, they are capable of diagnosing themselves. But if a person just say, "Hey, anytime I do X, Y, and Z, I have pain," we're supposed to give them a 10% rating. You're supposed, even though they have in, the attitude of the rate, we're supposed to take our personal feelings out of the rating decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Although there's a lot of things that I see when I rate I don't agree with, but you have to go with the overall evidence.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going here. Um, so additionally, in this section of the manual, it says that the minimum compensation evaluation can be assigned. We read that earlier. So the OIG team found that selection in the evaluation builder was not standardized. The manual requires claim processors to use the tool because it represents accurate policy and procedures in assigning disability evaluations. Claim processors document each joint separately in the evaluation builder, input in medical evidence such as examination findings. In interviews with the team, processors expressed confusion related to whether they should select painful motion in the evaluation builder when the veteran reports subjective complaints of pain or painful motion. Additionally, processors noted that the evaluation builder does not clearly incorporate subjective complaints of painful motion. They suggest that they should be a clear and consistent way to document both objective and subjective painful motion. What are your thoughts on that, Natural? Do you think it would make a difference in the evaluation builder,
If
making the decipher between the objective and the subjective?
you know, again, I'm gonna always go with the overall evidence.
Yeah.
So even if they do incorporate the subjective and the objective, um, for painful motion, I
Hmm.
think that it still should rely on the overall evidence. Again, if a veteran states that they are in pain, I don't really take into consideration the subjective and the objective. I'll go with the person said they're in pain.
Hmm.
I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. I look in their STRs. They've been complaining about knee pain, joint pain, all of that. Shoulder pain, neck pain, all of that. I'm gonna automatically give them a 10%, regardless of what the ranges of motions are. I do. I can't
Yeah.
speak for everyone else, but a lot of raters just look at the DBQ,
Hmm.
because it's so much hurry up and get these rated, hurry up and get this rated, instead of us looking at taking the time. And I don't go off of I go off of the, a lot of them want numbers,
Hmm.
and I go off of quality, not quantity. Because if you produce a quality rating in the first place, you will cut down on errors and supplemental claims, and just the overall frustration of the claim process for veterans. But it's heavily weighed on us to um, get the claims out, to
Yeah.
bring down the backlog. So some raters just hurry up and rate, and again, it don't make sense to hurry up and rate when errors get called, because you hurry up and you neglect to look at the overall evidence. So even if they input, in my opinion, the objective and subjective, how you gonna tell me I'm not in pain?
Pain. Yeah. Correct.
You know
Correct.
what I'm saying? Like, you
Hmm.
can't, you don't have my body. You can't tell me, just because I might not make a face, or I might be like, oh, that hurt, does
Hmm.
not mean I'm not in pain. If I told you, like, hey, when I walk up these steps, or when I stand up too long,
Hmm.
I have pain. If I'm lifting up something, if I lift my shoulder above, at that moment, if I'm at the exam, I might not be in pain, but it doesn't mean I don't have pain. And a lot of times, what happens is, if the veteran has not had a flare up in a while, or they go to the exam and they just may not just be in pain that day, a lot of times the examiner won't note, the pain.
Yeah. Hey, Miss K. How are ya? Happy Friday. Anyway, so let's keep going. The Because there's no indication for claim processors that their selection is either objective or subjective, it may be challenging for them to understand how to input subjective painful motion complaints compared to objective evidence. If the claim processor does not understand that any form of painful motion, subjective or objective, warrants a compensatable evaluation, they may under evaluate the disability. Now, the evaluation builder was created to make rating decisions more accurate and consistent, but inconsistent input layouts contributed to inconsistent decision results, especially related to painful motion. According to the staff from the VBA Office of Benefits Automation, if claim processors should consider subjective evidence, then the tool should reflect that. As further evidence of the confusion noted previously in March 2025, the compensation service quality staff reminded claim processors in a call that it's important to remember to select the painful motion box in the evaluation builder when applying 38 CFR 4.59 as not doing so may prevent the correct evaluation from populating. Furthermore, quality staff advise that if the evaluation builder offers a non compensatable evaluation for a joint disability, it is best to double check the inputs and verify whether painful motion should be applied. Despite this clarification in March 2025, when OIG team visited regional offices in June and July 2025, the claim processors and quality staff still demonstrated inconsistent understanding and confusion.
And I would say because when you think of subjective pain, it's what the veteran said, patient says, whoever you want to. It's that's why it's I don't. They first probably should understand the definition of subjective and objective
Yes.
first.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're looking at it like this, the veteran is the subjective person,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The 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 objective pain is the visible signs.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So if as a rater, if I was not there, right, at the examination, I
Mm-hmm.
can't visibly say, well, when we're using objective, you know what I'm saying? I can't visually be like, well, I could see the veteran's heart, breaking and sweat and heart was racing and pounding,
Mm-hmm.
when they were doing their flexion and extension and um, maybe they broke out crying or whatever. We don't see that.
Yeah.
What we see is subjective because we are reading what the veteran says, we're reading what the evidence says.
Mm-hmm.
So naturally, for a rater, it's subjective to them,
Yeah.
in my mind, because of course we were not there to actually see the veteran in visible pain, or we heard the veteran say, ouch,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying, or that hurts, I can't bend anymore. So how can you say, well, we need you to be subjective or objective? The only way we can do that is based off of the evidence of record.
Mm-hmm.
We have to, if the examiner says, oh, when I bent the veteran 90 degrees, they exhibited pain. I saw their face, wince at 90 degrees. Most examiners don't say that. They just put the degree of where where they show the pain at, and sometimes they don't check flexion pain or pain on flexion or pain on extension. Me, anytime I read on there that the veteran has pain, I check flexion pain, and that gives them a 10%.
Thank
So
you. Natural. Yep.
I think that, I don't know, I think, and this is why when you have a lot of new raiders coming in, we have a lot of issues like that because us older raiders are about to go out the door.
Yeah.
And I feel that it's going to be more challenging because you don't have raiders like me to be able to mentor. You don't have them like FF to be able to mentor. So everything they're learning is going to be by trial and error. You get taught, but comfortably when you're rating, you don't feel comfortable 2 to 5 years at least.
Wow.
Um, but again, I don't know, if you don't know the definition of subjective and objective pain, probably should start there
Yeah.
and get the full understanding before you can apply it. But
And
again, as a rater, we're not at the examination. We solely read.
yeah. Well, before you had joined, when they asked a couple of the claim processors if they understand the meaning between subjective and objective, they did not. They couldn't decipher between both of them. So
Yeah.
I think it goes back to education, which is the foundation of training. And
Mhm.
of course, it's a lot of information. I am always advocating for raters because I know the capacity behind it. Even with working with veterans, sometimes like it's a lot, right? And so you have this much pressure on you. You have to fulfill this claim. You want to make sure that the veteran is well compensated at the same time, but you don't have a clear understanding of the guidance, That's a lot of weight, right? So your weight over here and your weight over here, you have pressure over here and pressure, and you're the decision maker behind this, but you don't have a clear foundation. And that's the problem. And y'all better hit the like button because I'm really doing my due diligence here tonight. Okay? Hit the like button. Even if you in the bushes, hit the like button. Because it's not for me. It's for veterans. Okay? So let's go to the conclusion, and then we'll if you guys have some questions for Natural, she can answer some questions if she have time, and then we can go about our business. But anyway, the OIG team estimated that 50% of the decisions completed on the non-compensable joint disabilities during the review period were incorrect. The team further estimated that 12,000 of the errors were resulting in at least 45 million being underpaid to veterans. Now, claims processors must review, analyze, and weigh all the evidence when evaluating disabilities. However, furthermore, evaluation should be consistently assigned and should not depend on claim processors' varying interpretations of the 38 CFR 4.59. Now, the VBA's compensation services need to establish how to uniformly interpret the CFR and provide clear guidance to claim processors moving forward. Until this occurs, veterans may continue to be underpaid for compensable joint disabilities. Now, the OIG had 4 recommendations, and they recommended to consult with the OIG Council to establish a clear and concise interpretation of the 38 CFR 4.59 to include clarification of whether pain alone without painful motion is sufficient to warrant a compensable evaluation. Then, based on the clarified interpretation of the 38 CFR 4.59, they're to consider revising the M21-1, which is the Adjudication Procedures Manual, to improve consistency of term and to notify claim processors of the revision. They're also to assess whether guidance is clear to claim processors regarding the requirement to review all evidence, including both objective and subjective evidence, as well as the proper weight that should be given to each piece of evidence. Now, they're to determine what actions are necessary to the evaluation builder tool to mitigate the confusion and ensure decision consistency for all musculoskeletal joint conditions. Now, of course, the VA had comments, right? The management, the principal deputy under the Secretary for Benefits, performing the delegable duties of the Undersecretary for Benefits, concurred with the recommendations 1 and 2 and concurred in principle with 3 and 4. That means that they had a little back and forth that they was going, do a little 1, 2. A summary of the VBA's response of each recommendation is below. So for recommendation, the VBA explained that on April 9th of 2026, it's requested an opinion from the VA Office of General Counsel to establish the clear and concise interpretation of the 38 CFR 4.59 and to clarify whether pain alone without painful motion is sufficient to warrant a compensable evaluation. Then, for recommendation 2, once the VBA received the OIG's opinion, the VBA will consider revising the M21-1 to improve consistency of terms and notify processors of the revision. Now, to address 3, the VBA noted that current guidance requires claim processors to review all relevant evidence, including both the subjective and the objective evidence, and to assign appropriate weight to each. Now, the VBA will further evaluate the clarity of this guidance with input from the OIG to determine whether revisions are needed. In response to 4, after updating the M21-1 and assessing claim processors' understanding, the VBA will determine whether additional actions are necessary. And as we go down further in this is 27 pages, so I'm not going to go over, but the VBA then starts to go into what management should do, how they should design activities and information in the system when it comes to like the evaluator, when it comes to an error that the processors, the claim processors have made. They went and looked at the data. They went back and looked at the government standards. This is in the description of the video. You can go pull this and read all 27 pages. I pulled out the pertinent information that you guys would need when it came to this evaluation that the OIG did. Now, before I get ask Natural some other questions that I have here, I want you guys to know this, right? I want to make this very clear. As a veteran, you should not assume that every joint rating of 0% is wrong. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you go in there and you tell them people that their stuff was wrong and they open up your stuff and you lose some of the stuff, don't be surprised. Now, the report does not automatically mean that they're going to open up old decisions. And the report itself does not automatically award compensation just because you have a 0%. Now, the 45 million that was estimated nationwide underpayment, then veterans are going to have to apply for their disabilities to get reevaluated to make sure that they do deserve the compensation that they should have gotten before. Now, I'm sure this is going to be backdated if the VA finds fit that it should be backdated. Now, veterans should also review, like I tell you guys, your decision letters and your examination, all right? So do a FOIA request. Do a FOIA request. Make sure that you can go back and look at your DBQ so you can see what was annotated, right? Before you go into jumping like, oh, I'm owed this money. So that's what I wanted to say before we get into, any more other conversation when it comes to this, because I don't want you to automatically assume that, oh yeah, they owe me money. I'm at 0% and mine was wrong. What I want you to do is pay close attention in your C&P examination. This is why I tell you, if you can't remember everything, write it down on a piece of paper. Write it down. Make sure that you are consistent in your C&P exam. Ask the questions. When they ask questions, you answer them honestly. But do not, okay? Do not go in there talking too much. Make sure you give the most pertinent information. Veterans should not receive different outcomes because one claim processor interprets patient morphine differently from another, but because there's different interpretations between claims processors, of course that's going to happen, right? But veterans should not be penalized because the VA owned procedures and rating tools are not clear, right? And most importantly, veteran reports about their symptoms and the functionality limitations should be meaningfully considered. I think it should be, but you have to be able to speak exactly what's happening to you. Like your range of motion, your x-rays, and all that type of stuff should be considered. Like Natural said, the weight of the evidence. All the evidence have to be evaluated, not just you saying, when you flex my knee, it hurts. You have, the evidence have to add up to everything that you are experiencing. Now, in conclusion, the OIG found not only among regional offices that claim processors, but they also found among the head staff, they did not even know which way to go. So you obviously knows that this is not based on individual training. This is more a broader problem involving like guidance, interpretation, and the VA decision-making tool, right? There's a lot that we can unpack here in this. All right, so let's look a little bit at the comments. Natural, is there anything you want to talk about when it comes to the musculoskeletal and the painful motion? Now, before you get into that, I see a lot of people say, well, I already got 40% for this, and what do you suggest? What is your suggestions? Because I know you can't tell them what to do, but your suggestions when it comes to deciphering when it comes to the musculoskeletal disabilities.
So a lot of times what happens is If you have anything over 10%, it basically has to do with the wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the deficiency in the wrong, right? But what people do is they will go look at the rating schedule, right? Just like you say, the raters don't know what subjective and objective is. When you
Mm-hmm.
read that the rating schedule, you have to be able to decipher the rating schedule. It sometimes goes like this: you have to have this, or this, or this, or this, and this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes veterans listen to people who say, hey, you can go back and you can get this, this, and this. Now, a lot of people, yeah, you hurt, so you feel that your condition is getting worse,
Mm-hmm.
so you go back. But a lot of times what happens is when people go back on that day, sometimes their range of motion don't equate to their current percentage. And therefore, when it comes back, we have to propose to reduce.
Mm-hmm.
So with me, if a person has a 40% on the back and it's very hard to get, don't ever come back for that back.
Hmm.
Unless you have some type of surgery that kind of causes you where it affects your walk. Like it has to cause you so much debilitating pain,
Mm-hmm.
so much like you have to be basically like where you have to have somebody pushing you around for that to elevate to the next level,
Mm-hmm.
even to get SMC. If you're lucky enough to get a 40% on a joint, don't touch it.
Yeah. Thank you. If there's going to be a brain drain in the next 3 to 5 years, many RVSRs will likely retire in the next few years.
Yes, it definitely is because right now there's a big push to hire RVSRs, and
Mm.
it takes a while to get a RVSR trained up to be good. Like I said, when I started, I didn't feel comfortable until my 5th year,
Wow.
and I had been rating, and it's not an easy job. I'm not gonna say that it's easy, but it's doable.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely depends on you as an individual, and some people can't hack it. It's very stressful. I questioned myself a lot when I first started, but I just happen to have a personality that people like and people would help me, and I just learned how to be a good rater because what I always do is put myself in that mind frame of if I was that veteran, I would want someone to give me the best, rating decision possible. Do not rush through my rating because you don't know if that person is depending on this money. You don't know their situation. Not saying
Mm-hmm.
everybody's situation is dire, but you don't know.
Yeah.
So that's the approach I take. I try to put myself in the position of that vet, and I do my due diligence in taking my time on that. But I also, when I see a person at a certain percentage and they come back for an increase, I automatically know it's going to get this decreased. I automatically know it because 40% is very hard to get.
Mm.
And I'm 95% always right when I be like, okay, when I rate this, I know they're going to go down to 20 or 10%. And to climb all the way back up to that 40 is very hard.
Mm. Mm.
And so, and when people, so automatically, like, say you're 40% for your back, and you come back and you're trying to get radiculopathy, we automatically send for a back DBQ. Automatically. Because the back is the reason why you're claiming radiculopathy. So
Mm-hmm.
you're going to go for a back, thinking I didn't claim back, but back is the primary condition. Radiculopathy is the secondary. So automatically you go for that, right? If that back
Mm-hmm.
may show now you have a 20% that's warranted, and your radiculopathy show maybe a 10 or 20,
Mm-hmm.
then we'll propose the back, but we will grant you the radiculopathy. So it's like a gamble, guys. When y'all start trying to come back for things, you have to look at the overall, what's beneficial for you. Is it beneficial to lose what you have chasing something, that may cause you to lose something you already got? Not saying don't do it. I'm just saying think about if it's beneficial for you to lose what you already have.
Mm-hmm.
And what kind of bothers me when I look at ratings is if a veteran is already 100% and they come back for something. I use back because back is probably the highest I've seen on joints.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they do like a total knee, get a total knee or total hip,
Yeah.
something. Um, and you lose 100% because you're chasing more stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like if you had an uphill battle getting to 100%, why would you keep coming back? Because when you guys come back, you may come back for one thing, but you open your whole claim
Hmm.
without even knowing that you opening your whole claim. Because if we find something that was granted in error, it's either a sever or a proposal to reduce
Mm-hmm.
because someone made a mistake.
Yeah.
And I got 3 of them in my queue right now that's just sitting there that I have to propose to sever. I don't want to, but because the evidence says I have to.
Mm.
And so this is the risk that you take. You do not have to open up anything. It's up for grabs if you come to the queue.
Mm.
So please know this is why I don't like the word permanent and total. I don't like it. I don't like when they be like, "Oh, I'm 100% permanent total." Okay. Who am I to argue with you? Just because it says that on that paper does not mean that.
Mm.
Unless that particular disability has been in play 20 years. It's protected. But
Um.
just be mindful when we make, I know every day for me, we get an update on everything.
Mhm.
I get a million emails to my Outlook, and they tell me, they call me, they be like, "I know you didn't read it. Here's what's," because I can't read all those emails.
Yeah.
I
See.
mean, you can go in the manual and be looking for something and find like, oh, it was an update to this. It changes daily on how we rate something, how we're supposed to look at something. And so just like y'all get frustrated, we do too, because every day we got some type of training, we got some type of change. And once you think you know something about something, it changes again.
Mm. 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 Mm.
So I would just say be very cautious on what you pick to come back for. Even applying for new conditions still opens up your case because we have to review the case in its entirety to make sure that you are rated correctly. And if you are not, then you'll get one of those letters in the mail telling you, hey, this, and that, which kind of, like I said, makes you angry because now we're taking something from you. Or sometimes you get the good letters and say, hey, we did this wrong and here you go. So it's a gamble. It's a 50-50 shot when you come back.
Wow. This is a lot. This is an eye opener when it comes to the musculoskeletal. But before we go, I wanted you guys to see the hearing about Petiti versus McDonald's. And a little bit about it was that I'm gonna go up here a little bit was that the Petiti appeals the council in November 2013 Board of Veteran Appeals, the decision that denied entitlement to a disability rating in excess of 40% for rheumatoid arthritis. Now you heard what Natural just said, right? You heard when it comes to over 40%, what did she say? What did she say? Right? Um, this matter was referred to the panel of the court to address the oral argument whether the board um, whether the board was, hold on, I gotta go back. Whether the board erred in conclusion that Mr. Petiti was not entitled to a minimum compensatable disability rated for each affected joint under
Joint.
the 38 CFR 4.71A.
Correct.
As explained below, the court concluded that objective evidence of painful motion is required under DC 5002. However, the court will reverse the board's factual finding that Mr. Petiti did not have such objective confirmation of painful motion. The board decision will be vacated and the matter will be remanded for further adjudication so that the board may determine the proper disability for Mr. Petiti's rheumatoid arthritis. Now, a little bit of
Yeah.
background. You want to say something, Natural?
Well, because I was gonna say with rheumatoid arthritis, we don't rate them as separate. We rate them all together. We just give it the diagnostic code. I think it's 5002 for RA, and we rate it as we don't do like knee rheumatoid arthritis, neck rheumatoid arthritis. We do rheumatoid arthritis. It's in like widespread. It's only like and rheumatoid arthritis doesn't go off a range of motion. It's like a couple questions on the DBQ
Mm-hmm.
that we use to rate. So it's not real. RA is not based on ranges of motion. It's like widespread pain and some other stuff that they add, on the DBQ that we actually use in the eval builder.
So, a little bit of background was that he served in active duty in the Air Force from 85 to 91 and from November 93 to 95 at 2003 to 6. The service treatment record indicated that in June of 1994, that Mr. Petiti was seen for sudden onset of burning pain in his hands, wrists, and feet that was accompanied to swelling, stiffness, and erythema. Over the course of the next several months, these symptoms continued, worsened, and spread to the elbows, shoulders, knees, ankles, and hips. Then Mr. Petiti also experienced considerable morning stiffness for 2 to 3 hours with intermediate redness and tenderness in the hands, which was aggravated with activity. He could no longer work at his private job as a landscaper, and he had difficulty with certain tasks such as washing dishes. By September 1994, Mr. Petiti was diagnosed by a military physician with center negative RA and placed on a immunosuppressant drug regimen. In 1994 November, he underwent an Air Force Medical Evaluation Board proceeding. He was provided a physical examination which indicated that he had compression tenderness of the wrist and fingers, which is a mild synovial bogginess in the fingers. Additionally, there was tenderness with a range of motion up the shoulder and right hip. Mr. Petiti's medication for his RA was continued, but he showed no significant improvements. For example, pain in his hands and feet increased. In May of 1995, Mr. Petiti was honorably discharged and placed on the TDRL list. Post discharge in 95, Mr. Petiti submitted a claim for VA disability benefits. In June of 95, outpatient treatment for the rheumatology clinic at the Madigan Army Center in Tacoma, Washington, a military physician indicated that Mr. Petiti continued to complain for early morning stiffness, which improved with medication. However, before each of the medication was administered, his symptoms had increased. The physician examined him and noted he had full range of motion in all joints with some traces of synovitis in the hands and right knee. Remember what Natural just said. So then in September 95, the VA regional office granted compensation for the RA, but they only assigned 20% disability rating for this condition. In 95, the day after he separated from service, he did not appeal this decision and it came final. Now, he underwent the TDR examination by the Air Force and he continued to report episodes of morning stiffness in his joints that lasted everywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. He had full range of motion throughout all his joints with no evidence of redness, swelling, infusion, or tenderness. The examiner noted that he had a good response to medication. However, he stated that he could not perform the fine hand movement requirement for his previous military job as an electronic technician and worked in the private sector as a landscaper. The examiner opined that it is unlikely that Mr. Petiti could return to active duty to resume his former occupations. The final examiner concluded that although his arthritis had been quiescent, the course of his arthritis is unpredictable and he could suffer a flare in the future. He was discharged with disability severance pay. And this is when the VA, this is the part where he decided that he should get a 40%. He should get, is it both arms natural for both hands? And he wanted it to be increased for 40% for both. And like Natural just said, it's not separated, it's put together. So this is where it comes with the painful motion, and he feels like he should be rated separately for the RA. But according to the VA, it doesn't work that way. So you guys can go read this. This is a lot too. This is definitely a lot.
You correct on that. So a lot of people are under the impression of when you have a diagnosis like RA, lupus, or anything like that, that it is rated based on joints, and it's not,
Mm-hmm.
it's not. But I want to say this. I saw a comment. I don't tell nobody what they can come and rate. You do whatever you want for you and your family. But what I'm telling you is you open up the risk. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that you can't file whatever. I'm just saying if you have a 40% for something and you look at that rating schedule and you think, you know what, I could probably get 60 or 80%. Chances are no, but you try it and you come back because you're trying to get either a SMC or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You open that claim up for things that possibly you shouldn't even had in the first place. You open up stuff where you were either over evaluated. Again, sometimes it goes the other way. You were under evaluated or you were denied something that should have been granted. It's a gamble. It's all I'm saying. When you come in, and this is not fear mongering, this is not telling you, hey, don't file. You are welcome to do what you want. What I'm just saying is certain conditions you shouldn't mess with. That's all I say. I say it all the time on here. You are welcome to file whatever you want. You don't got to listen to me. You don't got to listen to her. You don't have to listen to nobody. If your brain tells you, hey, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to file this, and you happen to be one of those when we say, hey, we are proposing to sever, we are proposing to reduce, then only person you can blame is yourself because you came back. I would never discourage a person for filing a claim for them and their family. I'm just telling you, every time you come back, there is a possibility. Sometimes it doesn't happen, sometimes it does. I'm just saying, be mindful when you do this. There are possibilities. Yeah. Does it happen all the time? No. But sometimes, yes, it does. Everybody wants to be rated, right? And that's fine. You served in the military and something happened to you. Yeah, you should. But guess what? Everybody doesn't get rated. Mm-hmm. That's just how it is. Everybody doesn't get a rating. And they fight and they fight and they fight and they get denial and denial. Sometimes God opens up the clouds and guess what? It changes, right? But there is always a gamble when you do it. Yeah. I can't sit here and say that it's not, because if it wasn't, I wouldn't have what I have in my queue right now waiting on me Monday. So my thing is, do what's best for you and your family. You set your family members up for whenever God calls you, right? Do that. But don't set yourself back right now
Yeah.
trying to chase something that could possibly,
Yeah.
set you back. You go from 100% to 10%. Then what your family doing? Because it happened. It's definitely happened. I've done it. So I don't try to scare anybody when I come on here. I tell the truth. I've never been a person to sugarcoat nothing. If you ask me a question, I'm going to tell you what it is. If you don't like it and you want to do what you want to do, I'm going to tell you, do what you want to do. But this is the possibilities, or this could happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not that raider. I'm not that person that's going to tell you what you want to hear. If you ask me a question based on what you ask me is what I'm going to tell you.
Correct.
I just wanted to address that. I don't fearmonger. I don't try to keep people from filing for their family. I have a family. So yes, I want my family taken care of. But based on what I see every day, natural doesn't go in the queue. Natural works the queue. There's a difference. And I be stretching stuff to try to get veterans and their family benefits. I'll latch onto one little word and I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna use this and I'll go back. Because I'm all for helping the veterans.
Yeah.
I'm not here to discourage anyone. I'm not here to put fear, but sometimes the truth is hard to hear.
Yeah. We got a couple of questions. Grace, are you on a different account? Because let me go up here. I saw another question from Thomas. Hey, Thomas. Hello. VA did an ACE exam in July after an in-person in June. Are there any restrictions how far an ACE exam can be from a veteran? No.
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 That's why it's an ACE exam.
Natural. Okay. 20 years at a certain percent, then no proposal to reduce if we're not going for increase on those ratings. However, filing new claims are a go, have nothing to do with those 20 years.
What?
I don't
I
get
don't I don't know what you're talking about, Grace.
Grace, run that back. Skins. Okay, let's see. Vet had no migraines documented at entry. Now has headaches greater than once a month and completely prostrating. These boxes were checked on DBQ. On IMO, examiner checked at least as likely to chronic sinusitis and stated they couldn't determine base level of severity. VA
Oh,
denied claim. If examiner checked, regardless of whether you could have determined baseline box, shouldn't VA have granted the claim? Didn't Spicer case legally rule the baseline level mute?
so no. Um, technically, okay. So technically, the only time we do the Spicer is when it's denied the first time on a secondary, and that's when we ask if the service connected disability aggravated the non-service connected disability, and even if they have a positive medical, if the baseline cannot be determined, we cannot service connect. That we did a live about that I guess a few weeks ago, and we pulled up it's a PowerPoint on
Spicer.
HerVets, and you can go look on there, and we have all of the manual reference to show you about the baseline on there.
Yeah.
For you to understand. I don't like that I don't like that one either, but but what I have noticed is that people were getting a positive secondary and then they were going back asking for that baseline question, and that's not what we're supposed to do.
Okay. All right, Grace. So I'm at 20 plus years filing new claims. Completely nothing to do with those that have been serviced. Oh, okay. So
Okay.
Okay, you got it.
So if you've had a specific percentage and a specific disability for 20 or more years, we can't reduce it. We can't reduce it or sever it for any reason. You would stay at that certain percentage. So if you file an increase, hold on, Grace, that 40% is protected. If you file an increase and you get an increase, say hypothetically you got I don't know what the condition is, but say hypothetically you got a 60%, right? And you say, you know what, let me go back and get an 80, right? The 80 is not protected. We couldn't take you below the 40 because the 40 is protected at 20 years. The 60 and the 80 would not be protected. The 40%, even if them exams showed that you had a 10% now warranted, we still couldn't take you below the 40 because the 40 is protected under the 20-year rule. If that makes sense.
Got it.
So
Great. Go ahead, Natural.
yeah, that's all. That's what I want to tell. Like, that's what the 20-year rule. We just we couldn't drop her below the 40. But we could take that 80 and that.
Oh, she said she's just filing a new claim, but no increase.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
But again, filing new increases, in Grace's case, would not affect her percentages because even if we found a error in her stuff, we couldn't take her stuff. I'm meaning people who have, things are not protected. Even, and again, if something was granted in error that has not been in play for 20 or more years, we can sever it. Because sometimes I see people granting tinnitus for both ears, which you can't do that.
No.
Or a double 10% for the same ankle for instability. It's, it happens.
Arthritis, that example right there.
Yeah.
Prime example. So that's an error. Before you go, there's something I wanted to touch on. Hold on, Skins, let's see what you said here. Could vet argue that no migraines documented at the entry into service be the start of the baseline and now has headaches greater than once a month and completely prostrated to the baseline end?
So did they claim migraine secondary to something, or they claim migraine as a direct? Because the baseline shouldn't matter in this case if they claimed it direct.
Now has headaches greater than a month ago. These boxes which I am obesity likely. Chronic sinusitis and stated they couldn't determine.
So they're basically saying, so if you claim something on a secondary, you can't look at migraines on a direct basis, right? So we can't look at what happened when they entered service. That's not the baseline. What essentially this vet is saying at the start of the chronic sinusitis, but headaches is a symptom of sinusitis. So if the veteran, if they have chronic sinusitis and the examiner checks headaches on that headache, that symptom determines whether the veteran can get a 10, a 20, or a 30.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. Now, what the examiner would have to do is determine whether the migraines is separate and distinct from the sinusitis causing, like they would have to say the migraines is not a symptom of the chronic sinusitis, but it's an actual separate and distinct disability on its own. Because on the DBQ it has headaches, they would have to determine, is it a sinus headache that, it's a lot of little, mumbo jumbo. But what happened in this case is the veteran possibly claimed it. I don't know without seeing the case. They claimed migraine secondary to chronic sinusitis. we're supposed to ask for a secondary MO first.
Yeah.
That's and if that if that comes back negative, then if the examiner doesn't complete the Spicer versus Allen, the baseline part, then we have to send it back to get them. If the exam comes back and the examiner says, yes, the secondary, we should supposed to grant it.
Dro asked for migraine second and aggravated opinion. Examiner check aggravated box.
Well, but they couldn't determine the baseline.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's a denial. So it's basically a denial with a favorable finding. Hey, don't argue with me, argue with Congress. I
and,
didn't do it.
and I do have migraine secondary to sinusitis.
But that's typically before all this
All of this, yeah.
baseline and all that came into
Mhm.
play. I don't agree with that either, guys. Just let me say, as a rater, I sympathize with a lot of vets.
Mhm.
I do, because a lot of laws that are passed, I'm like, what? That's not to help the vet. That's the now in this Spicer versus Allen, it helped him.
Mhm.
But
It
in
doesn't
some
help
cases,
veterans.
it doesn't help everyone.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna pass a law, it should be beneficial for it, because that's the reason we pass laws, right?
Mhm.
It's to be beneficial.
Mhm.
It's beneficial for some and not all. Because what I've seen is a lot of the baseline can't be determined with a positive, but according to the manual, if the baseline cannot be determined, we can't grant it. I don't like it either, but
Sorry, it's there. But like I say, guys, the changes, the changes are not. Before you go natural, I want to talk about this whole musculoskeletal thing in SMC. So somebody sent me a lengthy email of how they can apply for SMC when it comes to a musculoskeletal disability and how can the two be connected to get the SMC.
you know what?
I don't want to start you tonight. And you know what, though? We can save that. You know what I'm going to do? We're doing denial letters on Sunday, and I can save the letter for Sunday. I can do that. I can do that. So that way you can read the letter and we can go down. So, guys, we are doing denial letter on Sunday.
So,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
for muscle skeletal, you have to have loss of use. And that's the part people, and I got real close to my computer. I'm so sorry, because
You're fine. I control the volume. You're fine.
you gotta have so people think you gotta have you can get SMCK, yes. You can get all the way, you can get L, you can get,
Yeah.
but you gotta have severe muscle pain, weakness, instability, need, and you gotta have persons help. Like, all right, okay, let's look at it like this.
All right.
Muscle, what is it? Multiple sclerosis.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Or
that's
LS.
SMC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
SMC, aid in attendance.
Mm-hmm.
Severe RA,
Mm-hmm.
you know, drop foot, that's SMC. K. It's yes, you have loss of use. Yes, you can get it, but there are certain disabilities that require that level of SMC, right? It
Mm-hmm.
ain't just, oh, my shoulder hurt and I can't raise it above my head. I can get no, 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 no. That's not it. So people have to do their due diligence and read the SMC in its entirety to be able to decipher what it is that you have. Again, if you have a spine condition, a limb condition that led to an amputation, correct? That's loss of use.
Yeah.
You gotta, I'm trying to think. Loss of use of a hand, loss of use of something where it you can't either, you can't feed yourself. You can't.
Yeah.
You gotta think of it like that.
You're helpless in that situation. Yeah.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, yes.
Thomas
So
Cornell.
yeah, I had to think about how to
With
say it without.
hypertension 0%, with continuous medication, it's not worth an HLR.
No,
Yeah.
it's not going. So, okay, hypertension with medication with regular blood pressures, because the way that we look at it is the blood pressures is the medication is
Mm-hmm.
continuous, so it's controlling your blood pressure.
Yeah.
I don't know where I was at when I don't know what I was looking at, and someone told a veteran. Oh, I know where I was at. I was watching someone's live,
On
and
TikTok.
they said they told a veteran. The veteran was like, "Oh, I go in for a I gotta go in for a DBQ for hypertension." And they told the vet like, "Hey, don't take your medication for a few days and drink a Red Bull before you go to your exam." See, this is the thing veterans don't understand.
Says
You can
somebody
do all
is
of that.
brave.
You can do all of that. But if I go into Capri and I look at your blood pressure readings for the last, I don't know, 6, 7 months, year, and I see 118 over this, 130, 120, and the day of the exam, I see, and then it says something like my medication is working, it's good, I don't have any problem. And on the day of the exam, I see 170 over 100. I know that you deliberately did this. So I'm gonna give you. So it's like you gotta be smart. You trying to kill yourself for a 10%?
Sending yourself to the upper room for 10%.
Yeah. What the heck?
Mm-mm.
You want to have a stroke just because you don't take your medication for 3? What is the risk? Like you got to outweigh the risk, guys. Hypertension is nothing to play with. That is stroke.
Mm-mm.
That is stroke. Like, come on, don't do that.
Yeah. Medication.
Don't do that. Take your medication. It is hard to get, a 10%, but you
Mhm.
gotta have like,
Yeah, you
if
can't
your
lay down.
diastolic and your systolic one is over 160 and one, if you have a history of your diastolic being over 100, then yes, we give you 10% for that.
Yeah. But it's not worth putting your health on the
It's
line.
$124 extra worth having a stroke. I
No.
think not.
And don't be
Take your
listening to
meds.
somebody tell y'all drink Red Bull and don't.
Why would y'all even listen to somebody to tell you that goofy stuff? Listen, find 10% somewhere else. Don't do that.
All right,
Don't do
before we
that.
go, it is denial Sunday, denial letter on Sunday. If you do not send your denial letter to me redacted, we're not going to go over it. If you want your denial letter to be gone over, to be reviewed, then you need to email it to me without PHI and PII. Don't send me your social, your address, your name. I don't want any of that in my email. Okay. The main goal here is for FF and Natural. We go over your denial letter, give you some insight on what you need to do or what you need to correct. And then if you want to take the insight, you can move forward with making sure. Now, we have been very successful over here with Denial Live. We've been very successful. Don't come back in here and talk about y'all told me to do this because we just going over the letter and giving you insight. It is not direction for you to go and do all this crazy stuff. Okay. So we're doing denial letter on Sunday, but if I don't get it by Saturday night, we're not going to review on Sunday because I'm not going to spend my whole day putting together a whole bunch of denial letters. Now my broke best friend is back in school and a sister is tired over here. Okay. I'm tired. I'm tired.
Um, Let me say, I seen somebody say something in the chat about TBI and their migraines are due to TBI.
Mm-hmm.
If your migraines are due to TBI, typically those are rated together. They won't, because typically if the we typically rate TBI with mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if they say that the TBI and they can't delineate the TBI from they will put that with your mental. So just be mindful. It's a possibility unless the doctor can say that it's separate and distinct, guys. I know people that have TBIs, and some of them are really severe, and it really has messed them up.
Mm-hmm.
So take care of yourself, guys. Take care of your mental. Check on your friends. Check on your family, because you just don't know what people are going through. I know that we come on here to try to help people with their disability claim, but it goes deeper than that.
Yes. Yeah.
You gotta take care of your star player, and your star player is you.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's good to be a little selfish and take care, stop. You have a lot of responsibilities. Most of us have, children and grandchildren and things of that nature, but you got to take care of your star player. And don't get so caught up and so focused on this claim process where you neglect yourself.
Yeah.
You
What is
got to take care of yourself.
38 CFR 3.156 lump email? What is that? Um, they kept my TBI at 0% for 20 years, but my migraine is at 50. I finally got my TBI rated 100% last week. Oh wow. I'm going to take Red Bull, take stock in Red Bull, and then claim hypertension. I hope I show up naturally. Y'all be doing too much. Yes, I love being here. So, um, before we go, I want to give you guys a takeaway from tonight that if you are service connected for joint condition rated at 0%, do not panic, but like Natural say, do a review to make sure that you are properly rated, right? And that's always FF words. She wants to make sure that you guys are properly rated. Now, look at your evidence, read your explanations that the VA provide, get a copy of your C&P examination, pay close attention to what the examiner documented about painful motion or your flare ups or the repeated use of like functional loss, right? You can review that to make sure that you are rated properly. Now, remember, the OIG report did not mean that every 0% joint rating is wrong. It just means that the VA own watchdog found that their ratings were incorrectly evaluated at an alarming rate during that period of time. Now, I do believe, and Natural and FF the same way, that every veteran deserves accurate decisions, and they deserve that the law, that there's consistency when applying the law. And when the VA makes mistakes that affects veteran compensation, now you know it ruffles my feathers a little bit, and I think that they should be held accountable and make the process more effective by correcting it. I do think that. Now, I want you guys to make sure you go and review your letters. Make sure you go back and read the 38 CFR. What you mean? You need to turn up your volume so you can hear because my volume is up to a max. John, what do you mean, John? Y'all can't hear me? Y'all, I've been whispering the whole night.
Maybe he needs a hearing examination.
John, I got my thing all the way up to all, and I'm on an iMac, and my speakers are all the way up. So I
Maybe
think
he's
you
talking
need to
about
turn up your
me.
volume. But anyway, um, I want you guys to make sure that you do take some time to go back and look at your evaluation. Do a FOIA request. It's taken a long time, but it gives you time to go back and review your letters and make sure that you have all the documentation, right? You have been quiet all night and Natural is yelling at us. We both on the same song wave, so she ain't yelling.
Yelling? I'm yelling? Jeez.
No, yeah. So
Y'all be sending me. Y'all be thinking I be yeah. I don't yell. My voice is very soft. How can I yell? Yeah, this is not yelling. Y'all better ask my grandkids.
okay, thank you, Nathan. It's not an issue. Thank you. So the whole point behind it is just make sure that you go back and take a look. I wanted to bring this to you guys' attention. It's a couple of other things that we'll get into next week as well. When it comes to some changes, I know there was a change for the DIC. There was also a change for fiduciary. There's a couple of things, changes that the VA have made. And so we'll get to those in the week. So my next step is Sunday, we are doing denial letters. Email me your denial letter redacted, and we would get into it. I'm sure I probably already got a good amount of denial letters. My email is just, I think it's at 517. So in there, there's some denial letters in there. But anyway, I just wanted you guys to see what is happening. Of course, it's always a pleasure to have Natural join us. If this information has helped you tonight, like the video, subscribe, share this live with another veteran, especially someone that you know who has had a service connected joint condition rated as 0%. Remember, the VA is not going to go in there and dig up and say, oh, HVV has 0. Let's go back and look at her stuff. You have to do the work. You have to do the work, right? You definitely have to do the work. What you say? The rating decision explaining painful AROM is flawed. It is so much more complicated and patients are not able to explain. Yeah, I mean, we just talked about there's confusion and there's not consistency. And so I do believe that the VA deserves to be given the opportunity to fix it. Now, if you make a mistake, right, you have to fix it. And so I think the plan of them trying to fix it let us know that they're going to try to do right by veterans. Of course, now Natural did mention this. When it comes to the rating experience, that plays a part as well. A more seasoned rater will be able to pick up the objectives more than a new rater, right? And you have to give them grace because they also have to gain experience. But at the same time, if the VA can simplify, right, the procedures and stuff like that, it will make it less complicated for new raters. So, of course, there are going to be new raters coming in the next couple of years. The
Oof,
older seasoned raters are leaving. But of course, my girls are going to continue to be in the queue until they're old and gray because they are
not
the
me.
oldest.
Not me. So what I would say is if you were one of those people who hypothetically you put in for a knee or a shoulder condition and you got a 0%, I would definitely come right back
Mm-hmm.
with a ask for a local hearing.
Yeah.
And you would be able to explain your pain and why you feel that 0% is not warranted. I mean immediately. As soon as you get that narrative and it gave you a 0, I would
Run it back.
immediately come back.
Run it back. Yeah. Run it
Do a
back,
lower
y'all.
level review. Don't do a supplemental. Do a lower level review or request a hearing, a
So,
predetermination hearing.
so what I'm going to do, I am going to sit down on this live with Natural and FF, and I'm going to walk you guys through a lower level review, okay? Or a notice of disagreement, because I see y'all in Raiders comments. HVV says something about a notice of disagreement and a lower level review in Natural, and they never explain. Can you explain? I'm grown.
Really, y'all dry snitching over there. We ain't
I'm
explained
grown.
that to y'all.
Okay. I'm grown and I give y'all a whole bunch of information. Okay. So, what we're going to do is we're going to do a notice of disagreement and a lower level review so you guys can have a much more deeper understanding
I
because we
ain't doing
educate
it.
over here.
I ain't doing it. Y'all want y'all got y'all answer from Radar HQ.
He ain't even
So y'all keep on going over there and doing it.
Anyway, see y'all on Sunday. It's definitely a pleasure always when we get together for the family cookout. As always, remember you serve. Now is your time to serve. Take care of yourself. Take care of one another. You know that HBB is advocating for you. Have an amazing weekend. Be kind to each other and don't go bullying people on social media and laughing just because they asked a question about their VA benefits. Be kind, okay? Love you guys now and see you on Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, no, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time because denial letters be taking a student. They do. But anyway, thank you, Natural. And I'll see you guys on Sunday. Have a great weekend, guys.
Thank
We are
you.
out.
You're not alone, you got a voice. Stand strong, stay informed. HerVetsVoice.